Warning, the following video has personal opinions and will contain personal bias. Anyone sensitive to someone else's opinion may want to turn away now. But thanks for watching anyways. Hey there guys, All Noah here, and welcome, to a brand new video discussing Cardfight Vanguard Zero as a whole. What I liked about it, what I disliked, and things that legitimately pissed me off alongside the entire fan base, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So, Vanguard Zero, when it was initially first announced, I think a lot of people were really excited for it, mostly because this was a lot of people's first exposure to the game, and even those people who liked the actual game already, now they can get into it via mobile and just not, and play whenever the hell they feel like it. I know to a lot of people whose countries don't have Vanguard, this may have been their first exposure to the game. And initially the hype was there. However, once details regarding how the game was going to work came out about it, I think a lot of people were kind of just mixed on it. They kind of changed mechanics to a point where people couldn't get past it. But those who did, myself included, we just kind of just went with it. And it kind of worked out at the end of the day. It was crazy because even people like Shady Penguin were getting involved with this game when it initially first came out to global. And coincidentally, even further, though, depends on your interpretation of it, it came out at probably the best time, too. Because, so for a lot of people, not only did you have this market towards, everybody who wants to learn how to play Vanguard and stuff, and on top of those people who want to get a fresh experience with their first experience with Vanguard, you also now have the large majority of the community who play the actual card game but can't because everything's shut down, now downloading Vanguard Zero because they have legit nothing to spend their money on, or at least they don't feel like it. Of course, this was never really an issue for me personally, mostly because I at least had somebody there for a while who constantly played the game with me, like face-to-face and everything, and it was totally fine. But I know for a large majority of the population, this was not the case. So, real quick, before we continue, I think there is one thing that I kind of want to discuss, and that's the actual gameplay itself. Now, if you've played the TCG in any sort of capacity, maybe outside of Overdress, then this should be very familiar to you because, even with Overdress, there's the actual fundamentals of the game of, riding up to like grade 3 and everything and, getting all your big push turns from there, most of those rules still pretty much apply. They've also updated a lot of the skills as well to basically make them a lot more playable. For instance, with Draconic Overlord, the end skill, normally it's just Counterblast 2 and Persona Blast and you restand him. However, in this game, because you don't keep the drive checks outside of, possible draw triggers, basically you get to draw 2. And that helps out the consistency of a lot of decks a lot more so than, normally. At the same time, a lot of cards and decks entirely get completely altered in a way that is honestly better for the game's health overall, like Link Joker, for instance. A lot of their stuff really required you to counterblast with in a deck that really didn't countercharge much, so you couldn't easily get triangle locks for free. And they have nerfed or, buffed certain skills to benefit each clan respectively. So I think the game balance overall isn't terrible, though there are a few outliers that when they do come out, they don't necessarily hit until it's rather too late. Oh, so that kind of reminds me also, the fact that when you build a deck in this game, normally you have a stack of 50 cards, including a starting Vanguard. However, they reduced the deck count to 40, and you are given 13 of each grade, which means 13 grade 1s, 2s, and 3s. This helps a lot of decks, but also nerfs quite a few of them. But it is interesting because there are some cards like Gancelot that can keep recycling itself back, so it's the ideal heal trigger. And a lot of these interactions are very unique, and how they adjusted the game style so that way it better suits the overall playing environment. I think it is quite interesting. And in general, I do think that it is an interesting concept to be explored because you can run up to 9 of the same trigger. So what most people do with their decks is basically run 9 draw 4 heal to make the 13. And that's going to change with the G update, but when it comes to the overall thing, unless you were really just going to try to crit sack your opponent, usually you'll run draws, because if you damage check triggers outside of draws in the damage zone, you don't get that additional draw. You kind of lose out on the effect. Hence why you're better off putting in the draws to consistently draw into all your pieces, so that way you have enough board presence, and 2, you have enough sustained power for when that board presence is enough. So I guess I should probably start with the good stuff, right? You would think that would probably be the best course of action for this. So what did I initially like about Vanguard Zero? I think one of the biggest things in comparison was how for a while, if you focused on one deck in particular, you could technically play free-to-play. And it was totally doable. It was definitely manageable. Especially with all the rewards that you would end up getting between all the rank fights, the story modes, the daily missions, the limited time missions, all this other stuff combined. And between that and the crafting system, what I'll get to in a minute, it made it very easy for you if you were specifically going after one clan in particular and you wanted to pull for everything for that clan. You'd be able to with no issue. So much so that you would not have to put a single freaking dime into the game. And I think that was definitely one thing that I really did like. I know that I'm kind of leaning towards the bad right now, but trust me, there's a lot of good. Adding on to that fact is character fights. So let's say that you didn't pull from the gacha what you needed exactly, but you got most of it. Well, hey, now you can go through the character fights, grind a little bit for some materials, and boom, you got what you need. A little patience, and trust me, it comes a long way. Also adding on to it, let's say that you play ranked, for instance, and you pulled everything but one copy of that one triple rare that you need. Coincidentally enough, though, it is a ranked promo, so you grind a bit, you get your copies that you need, and then you're set. And that's really a good thing. Even recently, a while back, they also made it so that way you can decraft your ranked promos, which I definitely think that was a good thing because they needed to do that. Outside of that, I mean, there was a lot that was going into it that I was genuinely hyped about. But I admit, there were a lot of screw-ups with this game. The ranked promos, don't get me wrong, they looked gorgeous as hell. They looked so gorgeous. But, oh my fucking god. If you told me that the amount of grinding I would have to do, the amount of BS I would have to put up with, just for this game to be fun, in any sort of capacity, man, I would have not touched this game if I knew what it was now. I'm not even... I realized that I didn't have a whole lot to say that was good about this game. I know I'm being very negative about it, but there's a lot of emotions coming out of me that, that it triggers me a bit. I'm not gonna lie. So let's start with the obvious big red button, the biggest problem that they attempted to fix, but they ultimately fucked up on. The gacha system. The fucking gacha system. I'm still baffled by this. How do you fuck up this bad with your gacha system? So, you know how in games like Duel Links, where you'd go into a main box and you'd have X amount of cards to pull from, until you ran through the entire box and you can reset it. Vanguard Zero initially did not have that. It wasn't until the recent G updates that it gave us that and I feel like that they should have given us this immediately out the gate. Now, it is true that they are going to be releasing stuff so that way it makes it easier for you to just pull from that one clan in case for some reason you haven't been playing at all over the last couple sets or whatnot and you need X amount of cards specifically from that clan. You can build up material and do way more with it. The point is that there's a reason why they went to it, and I'm glad they fixed it. But then this kind of leads into another issue. Like, what if your clan wasn't part of the normal gachas that would come out on a frequent basis? Unfortunately, my friend, you would have to resort to the clan events. Clan events, oh my fucking god, they're the worst. Okay, so basically you go in, you do character fights and whatnot to build up the material, which already kind of encourages whales to go into it. And you inevitably end up having a lot of these materials for the event gacha. It sounds so stupid. So then you go and do all the character fights, the challenge fights, for that limited time event. Click on it. It'll take you to some sort of screen where you can go and get the cards from there and everything. Holy fuck. They, especially recently with Legion, they really fucked us up with the amount of shit that we have to try to pull. Like, initially it wasn't an issue, but especially when it came to Legion, for some odd reason, they did a complete backwards, 180 on everything, and it irks the shit out of me. Like, for this most recent event, I couldn't get all the triple rares that I needed, even despite the fact that I went after every single freaking card that was a staple, and I still couldn't pull it. What the fuck, game? Like, it really baffles me, and it seems like it's getting worse in G because while I could argue, I could get on G's case for it, my experience is mostly from the global side. I have barely any experience from JP, so I know really not a whole lot at the end of the day, but it does irk me. So outside of the gachas, what else is terrible? I think another massive thing is that they do not give us nearly enough awards. And that's going to seem very petty, but really when you have a gacha that's this terrible, to give you guys context, okay, I'm a Link Joker main, right? I went into the last two sets of Legion trying to pull for Link Joker stuff, right? Get this shit. I don't pull any of the triple rares that I fucking need. So, not only do I have to craft the Legion grade 3, I also have to grab the grade 2 for said Legion and craft 4 times. God, Garnet was such a pain in the butt to get. I'm so glad I grinded ranked, but if you're really unlucky like me and can't pull what he needs, then good freaking luck. You'll have to actually really grind a bit. I know this was the main issue too, why the gacha system, the way that it currently is for global, is a problem, and I'm glad that they do inevitably fix this in G. But another massive issue with the game that I think a lot of people don't realize was the fact that VP farming kind of hurt the game in the long run. And even though in global, in JP, they kind of fixed that to a point where VP farmers don't really exist there. You go over to the global server and you see VP farmers all up and down the place toward the end of the season. And it's just like, dude, I want to play the freaking game. You know? I know it's Narukami and Bermuda Fest right now, but I'd rather do that than face another VP farmer. I'd rather play the game. Again, admittedly, this is sort of the reason why Shady Penguin left after a certain point, because it was very apparent, even immediately out the gate, that people were only interested in awards and didn't feel like playing the game. Like, no kidding. There's an achievement in the game called Psyqualia, where you have to rack up 15 wins in a row consecutively on the ranked ladder. You want to take a wild guess how quickly I was able to get that? Within the first couple weeks that the achievement was there, because VP farmers are everywhere, and that was just not fun. Like, there was a time that I just did not touch 0 for the ranked, and just grinding for my materials because I knew they were gonna hit that issue eventually. But this kind of leads into my other issue, is that when decks become an issue, like, i.e. right now, Narukami, they don't address it until way when it's too late. Like, no joke, Narukami, even despite the nerfs, even despite the choice restrictions, still one of the best decks in the format. And that's even without the recent Vanquisher support. So, what the fuck? You know? Like, God, can you, like, it's really nutty, like, how backwards a lot of their decisions are when it comes to the overall design of this game. Because they can do everything right and then do everything else wrong. Like Super Decks, for instance, right? Super Decks, I feel like they were built to help people build a clan completely from scratch in case they decide, oh, this new support looks nice, let me go and build that clan. Oh, wait, I need like a fuck ton of triple rares that I don't have the time to grind because I'm so busy with my main clan. Okay, well, I could just go and get one of the super decks via mission. Wait, I only get one? You're kidding. But JP got two for free. What the frick? Like, okay, so for context, basically, when super decks were first released into global, we ended up getting 2 super deck medals. So you could, in theory, craft one of these decks for just these 2 super medals that they give you for free. When you start up a new account, you only get 1. What? Like, and I checked the missions and everything, and someone can tell me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I did not see any indication that you could get 2 of them like you could when they were first released. I think that's something they could possibly fix in the future. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comment section. So, outside of all of everything that I've already discussed, there is one last thing I want to touch base on because, admittedly, this was sort of an issue that came up recently, and that is the lack of transparency between Bushiroad Game Studio and the fan base overall and the player base. So, what ended up happening was, on the day of release for Set 21, it took them the entire day to release the update. Now, I'm fully aware that this was all Apple's fault at the end of the day because Android users, the update for that was already set, but they wanted to make it fair for everyone. I understand that completely. But if you saw and you were at least made somewhat aware that Apple was going to be implementing new policies in to make it a little more difficult to release updates like that, like immediately on the day of, why did you wait that long to get the update approved in the first place? Why didn't you just have them look at it prior, before the official date was supposed to be announced, and then have at least a little bit more time to get the update approved by Apple at that point, if it was going to be that much of an issue. Or the smart thing to do in that situation is to release the update in the middle of the month, but not unlock all the content until after the end of the month, when the new month begins. To me, there were a bunch of ways you could have gone about it, and not adding on to and making things a lot worse, and adding on to the frustration was the fact that they were on their multiple social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. They were releasing ads for a game that we couldn't actually play that day. For a gacha that we couldn't actually access that day because the servers were down, and somebody really screwed up with somebody on the marketing team really screwed up at that point. And I'm really and for what I also heard is that when the update did come at first, because they were aware of some issues, but they didn't tell us, which I'll get to in a minute. Anyone who was logged in via Facebook, with the data link and everything, I'm pretty sure a good majority of those people lost their accounts. Because for some odd reason, they were having issues with login issues with, connecting if you connected to your Facebook. Because to protect your account and to make sure that nothing bad happens to it, whether you're transferring through phones or an update comes about, whatnot, they heavily encourage you to upload your account or save your account to one of your social medias. So either your Facebook, your Twitter, or even your Google account, which I did it through Google just to make my life a lot easier because I knew that it was going to be an issue. And yeah, it didn't end so well. Now, did it? Oh God, what a freaking train wreck. So a lot of people lost their accounts, which in turn caused a lot of people to quit the game right there and then. And all they had to do was, once they were aware that an issue was happening, stop what they were doing, write out a message saying, hey, do not attempt to update and log into your account into the game right now. There is a bug that causes you to lose your account. And I think people wouldn't have been as pissed off as they actually ended up becoming. No joke. You lost so many people that day. And, if Vanguard wasn't as big of an IP as it is, I think this would have killed the game. And, someone could tell me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I personally think that it would have most definitely killed the game if it had not been for the fact that Vanguard is such a large IP. So, you guys are free to tell me if I'm wrong in the comment section. So, they really need to be, at the end of the day, more transparent about stuff that's going on behind the scenes if things are going wrong and not as they intended. To let us know, hey, this is not going well. Give us some more time and please be patient. Which, all they had to do is do that and it would have been fine. Or at least acknowledge that there's something going on. And they did, but by the time they did, the damage was already done and people were pissed. So, what can I really say about Vanguard Zero after everything that I've already discussed? I think that Vanguard Zero in its current state is playable by a lot, and I say playable loosely. But if you told me a lot of the issues that were going to come up with this game, I wouldn't have invested nearly as much time into it, if at all. Had I known that Vanguard Zero was going to be this problematic. And I'm hoping that a lot of the issues that are going on JP do not translate over to global. I hope at least for the client events, they do how they did it with the Nova Grappler event and make it very easy for us to actually get all the rewards and stuff, all the cards and stuff. Because if you're going to make a gacha system like this that is Duel Links inspired, the very least you could do is make some clans very easy to build. I think that would be the best course of action at that point. So, yeah. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.